Good morning, everyone. Happy holidays. I hope you guys enjoy our holiday background today. I am Megan Seaton. I am the Vice President of Strategic Growth here at Avero Advisors. And I am so happy to be going live with one of my very own favorite employees, Miss Lexi Webster. And today, shocker, we are not talking about anything to do with RFPs. So and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm freezing. Maybe I'm not, but if I am, I do apologize. Hopefully, the internet will catch up here in a minute. If you're joining us today, please let us know in the chat box. We want to know where you're joining from. And today we're talking about ERP readiness. So if you're joining us today, tell us what your biggest challenge was. Maybe if you implemented or selected a new ERP system, or you're currently going through a digital transformation project. I want to know what your biggest challenge was. So comment, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what your biggest challenge was. If you're new to Avero's channel, Avero Advisors is an independent third-party consulting firm specializing in ERP consulting, specifically in the public sector. We also do technology strategic planning and business process re-engineering. So our goal is to help public agencies break through the noise by being that trusted advisor and doing thought leadership, things like this. So we're very excited to have you. Hi, AV. Thank you for joining us today. No pressure. Our boss is watching us. So please comment and make us look good. So Lexi, real quick, introduce yourself and tell us what you're most excited about this holiday season. How about that?
So I'm the proposal coordinator at Avero, but I do lots of more things than that. I'm with Megan in the business development department, help with a lot of marketing initiatives like this, and a lot of business development initiatives. I have a background working at a development district in grant administration, and I also have a master's degree in public policy and administration. And I guess the thing I'm most excited about this holiday season, Avero actually has the week off next week. So even though we're always still around if you need us, super excited that our employer did that, and that's a big blessing. So really, really excited for the week off to recharge. Yeah.
Yes, no, that is exciting. And as we gear up for 2025, we just have so much momentum going into
Yes.
2025. We're hearing from a lot of you all. You're asking good questions, and we have a lot of great things planned for 2025. So without further ado, we are talking about a checklist for implementation readiness. And why that may be a very boring topic, if you're not ready, so to speak, for any digital transformation project, but especially if you're overhauling your software systems, if you're not ready, it's like, building a house without the foundation first, right? Or knowing if the ground can hold it up. You have to understand your infrastructure, maybe where your employees are, how you do your day-to-day processes, your cybersecurity posture, right? There are a lot of things that need to be assessed before you say, hey, we want to implement a new HR or finance or asset management system.
Yeah.
You can't just say, hey, let's go buy this software, because you don't even know if your organization is ready. So we're going to make this fun today. Lexi, what thoughts do you have on readiness, or any analogies? What are your thoughts? Just tell me.
Yeah. I think readiness is one of the most important things in any digital transformation project, or any project in general. We have an analogy we always like to say: you wouldn't go and build a house without a plan. Like we are the architects of Avero in the digital transformation process, and can lead you through the planning and all of that. Because if you just start out and buy software and think you're going to implement it without a plan and without a third-party advisor that's holding you accountable, managing the project management of it, and really making sure everything is working correctly, a lot of times we end up with a software that nobody likes. People don't really like to use it, and the software may be fine. It's just that there's no stakeholder buy-in. So I think readiness is super important. Like for any big event in your life, you've got to do a little planning on the front end.
You do, absolutely. And as we mentioned, just buying the software. If you implement a new software with old processes, you've just wasted money. Because
For sure.
what is your software actually doing for you?
Hmm.
You're still using workarounds and Excel spreadsheets and
Yeah.
sticky notes and paper flying around everywhere.
Yeah.
You now have this $12 million system that doesn't work for you. So of course your end users are going to be very upset. I would be upset.
Hmm.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
pretty
Big
passionate.
waste of money. Yeah.
You've wasted money, and now all of your employees are mad, and you can't serve your citizens in the way that you thought you were going to be able to
Hmm.
with
Yeah.
this new software. So that leads me into step one of the checklist, executive alignment. I
Yeah.
think it's executive alignment. You know, you've
Agree.
got to understand, not just from an IT or technical perspective, you've got to understand from each individual department within your organization.
Hmm.
What are we looking to achieve? What
Yeah.
are the outcomes that we want as an organization? Not just individually, but as an organization.
Yeah.
How is this going to help us serve our citizens?
Yeah.
Right. A lot of times we see that IT is leading these digital transformation projects, and that's fine. That's
Yeah.
absolutely fine. But IT, you know, they are very good with software systems, with cybersecurity, with understanding that different integrations.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't always know the ins and outs of HR or finance
Hmm.
or how you do your day-to-day
Hmm.
job. So it's really important that you all get in a room and define what this project means for you, right?
Yes, definitely.
Um, Lexi, what are your thoughts on executive alignment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super important for the executives of the organization to come together and have that initial meeting before the project actually gets rolling.
Mhm.
Because if your executives aren't bought into it, why would, mid-level workers? And then no one's going to really understand, why are we doing the project? Our executives don't even know what's going on. I mean, Megan and I have some multiple instances where an entity goes out to RFP, and someone from the organization doesn't really care a lot about it. Somebody that should in that top position. So that's really important, because if you have executive alignment, you're much more easily going to have stakeholder buy-in from all of your other employees.
Exactly, exactly. And it can't be, again, just from one department. You
Hmm.
have to champion this
Yes.
project, and if you need help aligning your
Yeah.
goals and your expectations, you know, that is step one for us. Even, you know, if you've already done it, we are going to talk to you about it during
Hmm.
discovery. We
Yeah.
want to know what your outcomes are and
Yeah.
what the overall goals are for the organization. So it's really important to have that buy-in at the top,
Definitely.
so that your employees will buy in later.
Yeah.
Um, Really quick, we have shared our ERP checklist.
Hmm.
I think it's our readiness checklist. So thank
Hmm.
you for sharing that, Lex. We shared it here in the comments, and also you can find all of our thought leaderships and our thought in our 2025 report. I couldn't get that out. Sorry, struggling today with so 2025 report, left hand corner, all things digital transformation, what we've seen, our experience, our advice to you. All right, let's move on. We've talked about executive alignment. Um, we've talked a little bit about defining goals and objectives. It seems very obvious, but you wouldn't believe how many people do not know what their outcomes or what
Yeah.
their goals are for this
Yeah.
project. We do have a question from Kyler. Hey, Kyler, thank you for joining us today. Lexi, how do we go about defining our goals? What is your advice to our listeners today?
Yeah, so I think it's really about getting all departments in one room and making sure everyone is heard. If you're an organization of hundreds or even thousands of employees, it's probably impossible to get all of those people in one room at one time. But we at least need to have someone from each department representing what that department is looking for out of this process and how it can provide them positive outcomes. We've heard many stories about how, maybe a department was left out of a meeting, and then something gets implemented and it doesn't work out for their department very well because they weren't thought of in the initial planning phases. So it's really important to make sure you have information from all the stakeholders, and that really helps you align your objectives on the front end and think about things you may not have thought about from other perspectives.
Absolutely. It's about defining success and what success looks like for you. A lot of times we hear, go live is success, but what does go live actually mean to you in
Hmm.
your organization? Does
Yeah.
that mean that the software is implemented and, it works, it's running, the lights are blinking? Or does success mean that we have defined all of our objectives and we have met all of those objectives?
Hmm.
This new project has helped us reach those goals and objectives. So
Yeah.
I think it's department specific, but I think you need to do that even before going to RFP. We've talked
Definitely.
about this a lot in all of our other videos. Helping us see why you're doing this project and why you're doing it right now will allow us to craft a better response. We need to
Hmm.
know where you're at in your digital transformation journey,
Yeah.
right? So that we can better align ourselves to what you're looking for.
Hmm.
Do you have thoughts on that, Lex?
Yeah, I think it's super important to do that before they go out to RFP, even for our services, like you said, making
Mhm.
sure everyone's on the same page and knowing what they need and why we're doing this. That's so crucial. If you don't have stakeholder buy-in from the beginning, it's really hard to get it later on in the process when they're having to deal with new software and they don't understand why these changes are happening. It's really important to get that handled on the front end.
Yeah, absolutely. The people they need to understand how their lives are going to change, right? And when I say people, I mean end user. A lot
Hmm.
of change that happens in these projects, and it's not easy. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, if you're not number one, if you do not have your goals defined or your objectives defined, y'all, I can't talk today. I don't know what's wrong. Trying to get everything out. Maybe I'm just
Too
about
much.
all of this. I'm trying to spit it all out too fast. But, um, if you don't have those things defined and you don't communicate those things down, your end user is terrified that they're going to lose their job. They don't
Definitely.
know how
Mhm,
their lives and their day-to-day operations are about to change.
mhm.
Is their position about to get eliminated? Those are
Yeah.
things that need to be um, talked about from the top down, and that starts with goal setting.
Mhm.
What you're looking to achieve from
Yes,
this project.
for sure.
Um, Kyler says go live dates are the ultimate delusion.
That's so
Yes,
true.
that is so true. Lexi,
So
go ahead.
true.
Were you going to say something?
Yeah, and it's just funny, even when you go live, it doesn't mean the system is working well for everyone or that everyone even knows how to use it or is supporting it. Like, go live is such a fictional thing almost. Like, cool, this system is live, but are people happy? And there are, updated processes that are making their lives easier. Because if not, go live doesn't mean anything really.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And for the vendor, it means that you're in the cloud
Yeah.
and the thing turns on and the lights are blinking and you
Yeah.
can click around on the buttons, right? But vendors are not allowed, at least in our line of work, vendors are not allowed to set the go live date. Um, Go live is what it means to you and your organization, and it's different for everyone. And we can absolutely help you define
Yeah.
that. It says, "Where is Robert?" Robert is diligently taking care of all of our clients before work the entire week. Next, uh,
The holiday break.
Robert has been traveling a lot because I've been
Yeah.
traveling with him. We've all over the place, sharing the Avero story and why we're the best fit for everyone's digital transformation project. So, yeah, I will let him know that you said hello. Um, Tyler also asked a question. Let me scroll up. So this is a good one. And Lexi, I'm going to let you
Yes.
tackle it first. How do you garner executive alignment in a public sector project which stakeholders may be misaligned? Cough, cough, politics. It's a good
It's a great,
question.
yeah, it's a
Very,
great
very
question.
good question.
Because people's personal interests, politics get in the way of a lot of projects, even if they're
Uh-huh.
good things. They can let their personal judgments about someone cloud their feelings
Mhm.
about a project because that person is spearheading the project.
Right.
Um, so it is hard to break through that. However, I think you just really got to foster buy-in with each individual. and focus on how it will help them. It's going to help everyone in different ways, but focus on how it will help them specifically, which may be different than how it's helping someone else. It varies. So this is hard for sure. But I think that goes back to why these executive alignment sessions are so important to get over things like that, to get everyone on the same page. Because if you just start the process and people are not on the same page, that's going to show for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I would like to clarify really quick is that the word alignment does not mean that everyone has to be best friends. It means that everyone agrees on the path forward and
Yeah.
what this project means to the
Mhm.
overall organization,
Yeah.
right? They get along, they're going to work together for the benefit of the entire organization. And I think when it comes to alignment, there may be some red flags that you all can look for in your sessions, or red flags that we look for when we're helping you all with the executive alignment. And
Mhm.
I think, paying attention to how people are responding to whatever topic is at hand. Are
Yeah.
they being silent in the room when key issues are brought up? And if they are, how do you combat that? Well, how
Mhm.
we combat it is we give everyone a turn to speak, right?
Yeah.
We really need to get to the bottom of what everyone is feeling,
Yeah.
right? Another red flag could be like conflicting issues, right? Maybe there are two in the room that feel really passionate about both ends of the spectrum,
Mhm.
right? When it comes to digital transformation. But
Yeah.
um, sometimes our role is to play the mediator, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, do you have thoughts on that, Lexi?
Yeah, playing the mediator,
Yeah.
is super important and just making everyone feel heard. At the end of the
Mhm.
day, I've learned through multiple job experiences I have that people just wanna feel heard. If they're mad about something and complaining about something, a lot of times they're not even expecting you to fix the issue and find the solution. They just wanna be heard and feel like their opinion matters. So at least even if they're not 100% supportive of something, they know they've been heard and their concerns are valid and listened
That's
to.
that's right. It boils down to communication,
Yes.
right? I've learned a lot about my communication style this year, and it's really bad because I love to talk. If you guys can't tell, sometimes I can't talk very well, like today, but I love to talk, and sometimes I don't listen. And I think that's true for a lot of people in projects,
Mhm.
especially if they're spearheading the project. They're gung ho on what their objectives are and goals, and they don't want to listen to anybody else
Yeah.
or what they want. And
Mhm.
so a lot of it is communication and taking a step back and listening to everyone. So I do think that's important, Lexi. Everybody
Mhm.
does want to be heard, and I think everyone needs to be heard.
Yes.
um, One last red flag I want to bring up that we recognize when we're working with teams to, have that executive alignment is, you know, uh, sometimes departments blame each other, right, for certain roadblocks. And
Mhm.
in that situation, again, it's about listening and making each other feel heard. Maybe, HR didn't take the best approach to whatever that thing was, right? And finance has a problem with it.
Mhm.
And blaming doesn't help anybody, but we've seen it, right?
Yeah.
We've seen it multiple times, but blaming is not getting anyone done. And again, you have to remember that your end users are watching all of this unfold.
Mhm.
So you have to set a clear example,
Yeah, definitely.
and not blame. So, all right, let me go back to the comments. I don't know if anyone else has questions. Sorry. Um, yes, Mike Cole is a subject matter expert at
Mhm.
Avero, specifically in the public safety space. Um, so Kyler has another question. So say you get alignment, how do you keep with shift of priorities during a 3-year project? That's a good one. I'm going to let you run with that.
Yeah, that is a good one. I think back to, I think it was a conversation a few months ago between AV and Judith that was
Mhm.
on a live together that we did. Judith has, came up with this idea of the mindful pause during ERP implementation projects. And
Yep.
I think that's really important because you do have to pause at some points to not get lost in the weeds per se. And taking that pause is a way to, have our priorities shifted, have our goals shifted. What do we want from this? Our outcomes. That's really a way to step back and, have executive alignment or alignment in general throughout the project, kind of give everyone a break on doing the project for a week or so. Um, and take a step back and really see where you're at and if priorities have shifted.
Yeah, I love the idea of mindful pauses. And
Yeah,
with if you're watching, please add your thoughts in the comments. We'd love for our viewers to hear from you. And if you haven't seen that live with Judith, it is
really good.
on our YouTube channel. And I think the title literally is Mindful Pauses. Uh,
Mhm,
Make sure you check that out. But I think just to add to Lexi's point, in the beginning, clarifying the why for everyone involved, right?
yeah,
And that why may change. But
for
if
sure.
it does change, then it needs to be communicated early and often, right?
Yes.
Um, Maybe set a vision statement. I don't know. Where do you want to be? I think it goes back to defining what you want from
Mhm,
this project. Um,
yeah,
you need to facilitate those tough conversations. We've already talked about that, but
mhm,
making sure that everyone feels heard because priorities will shift. But it goes back to communication and relationship and remembering that why for the overall organization. Hey, and recognizing like, this is tough. This is not easy. But this is a legacy that I'm going to be able to leave for the people that come after me.
yeah,
I think another thing that we have not talked about in the executive alignment space is defining roles
mhm,
and responsibilities, making sure that there's ownership of certain tasks.
yeah,
And, if one person is supposed to be spearheading, HR, then they need to take full ownership of that.
mhm,
If you have an ERP cheerleader, then they need to take ownership of that. But defining what your role is in the overall project, I think is key too. Do you have thoughts on that, Lexi? On
yeah, I think defining people's roles is really great because that lets everyone be on the same page and know what's expected of them,
Mm,
and it also gives them, more of a stake in the project that
that's
they are contributing in a role that's important, so I
mhm,
think that that's really important and lets everyone get on the same page and know what's expected of them.
mhm. And I think everyone should anchor their decisions in data and what the data says.
Mhm.
I think one of the easiest ways to neutralize politics is proof in the numbers.
Yeah, look at the data.
If this process is not working, here's why, and
Mhm.
here's how long it's taking us. One
Yeah.
of the examples we use all the time, we helped one of our clients shorten the permit process
Mhm.
from something like 70 days to 20,
Yeah.
right? And there is so much to be said about proof in the numbers. So, if something is standing out, I think that can help neutralize, some red
Yeah.
flags of politics in the process. So
Yeah.
we've talked about executive alignment. We've talked about defining goals and objectives. And I think that all goes back to, building a house, the analogy of building a house. You just don't go, to a builder, an architect, and say, hey, build me a house. You
Mhm.
say, hey, architect, designer, this is the house that I want. I need it to be 2 stories. I want it to have 15 windows. I want the windows to be, from floor to ceiling. I want a hibachi grill in the middle of my kitchen. Like you
Yeah.
define what you want. It's no different for an ERP project. It really
Mhm.
isn't. We need to do more blogs on that
Yeah.
house. We
Yeah.
need to do a blog on that. Um, so we've talked about those two things. Step three, I think, would be to look at your processes, right? And optimize those. So, what can that look like? Lexi, I'm going to let you start with this processes and how we, define these in current state and future state, and then
Mhm.
touch a little bit on process mapping.
Yeah, so it's really important to do a current state discovery because although this project is focused on the future, to get to the future, you have to look at where you're currently at and what needs improved. So
Mhm.
we do current state discovery with questionnaires. We understand their current processes. We understand what isn't working so great, what isn't ideal, what does work good. Um, and then with current state discovery as well as future state visioning, we can do mapping, and that really lets you, visually see your processes and the efficiencies or inefficiencies in your
Mhm.
processes, and what could be, what takes 12 steps could be taken down to 2 or 3 steps.
Mhm.
Really lays it out and lets you know, because a lot of times I think people in their jobs get so caught up in, I was taught this way, this is how we do it, it is what it is. And they don't really take a step back and look and be like, wow, this takes me 15 steps to do this one little item. So I think it really puts everything into perspective and you get to view things differently. And then in future state visioning, you're looking at the current state and going, what can be improved? What
Mm.
do we want with a new system? What do we want, even with our existing system? What could be improved? Business process redesign. What could we do differently? So you're looking at the future, and to look at the future, you've got to assess what you currently do and have, and then know where you want to go. That really lets you know, okay, these are our top priorities and what we're looking to improve in this process.
That's right, that's right, and sometimes, there's a Karen, I'm just using Karen as an example, but there's a Karen, in finance that, she owns one process, right? Or she
Mhm.
owns one spreadsheet, and a lot of times it's hard for Karen to let go of that
Mhm.
process or that spreadsheet and really
Yeah.
allow us or anyone to take a look at how she's doing business,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And excuse me, that's part of change management.
Mhm.
You know, someone who's a Karen, who's holding on to that process really needs to be bought in to how this is going to affect her job,
Yes.
and how it's going to make her job more efficient, right? And
Mhm.
so then Karen can now focus and use her creativity in other areas of the business. But a lot of
Exactly.
times, when you're looking at processes or you're doing current state discovery, we do see that, right? We do see that the Karens who have been there for 20, 40 years sometimes, they're very have their arms wrapped around that process because they
Yeah.
don't let it go, or they're scared that this new system
Yeah.
is going to replace their whole job function.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
for sure.
please don't cancel me for using Karen. It was just an example. Use any. Just choose my own.
It was a
But
fitting name.
yeah, it's fitting. It's very fitting. Um, yes, thank you, Karen in accounting. Yes, Kyler, thank you. Sorry, please don't cancel me for that example. That's just the first name that came that came to mind. But it's true. It's very true. It's sometimes it's hard because they want to hold on to those processes. And then
Yes.
sometimes, you know, um, our clients don't even know how they're doing business, right? Because
Yeah,
they're
very
so
true.
yeah, they're so lost in the day to day and just getting
Mhm.
things done.
Yep.
They don't know how they're doing business,
Yep.
or you know, um, a lot of times departments are doing the same process for the same thing and they don't even know about it, right? Because they never
Mhm.
communicated on that.
Yeah.
So looking at your current state to be able to define your future state is very important. And if you work with us, small plug, we use a tool called IBM blueworks live
Yeah.
that actually maps out your processes in real time. So what we
Mhm.
do is we schedule an on-site meeting, right, with certain departments or whichever department. We'll take finance, for example, and we'll sit down with the entire finance department.
Mhm.
We'll say, okay, how do you process an invoice, or how do you, process paychecks for payroll,
Mhm.
whatever it is, we'll sit down and we'll walk through that, and sometimes we get different answers from people running the same process. So
Yeah.
it's just very eye opening to do it live because, again,
Mhm.
it's about communication. And I'm not sure that public sector agencies have time to stop and look at things from a holistic point of view and hear each
Mhm.
other and how they're doing things. So being
Yeah.
able to
For
map
sure.
that out live, and then being able to blue sky, right? How
Mhm.
can we make this more efficient? How can we automate this one piece? How can we get rid of this Excel spreadsheet that everyone's sharing across the organization,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely.
Um, the hard part with that is that sometimes our clients, because they're using very outdated technology, they don't know what a cloud-based system can do for them.
Mhm.
So we will bring in some of our vendor friends to do a very mini demo, right? To say, hey, this is how we can make you more efficient in this one area.
Mhm.
Um, we do have a question, and I want to live on this for a minute because I love this question from Bent. It says, how do you guys stay independent? Barry Dunn always picks Tyler Munis, and it's like they're in cahoots with Tyler Tech. What's up with that? Now, typically, Bent, we don't name people on our live, but you asked the question, so I'm going to dive into it really quick. Remaining independent at the end of the day is a choice.
Yeah.
It's a choice that we stand very strongly
Mhm.
behind,
Yep.
and we're the type of consultants that recognize the huge opportunity between being that trusted advisor between what the vendor is telling you and what public agencies are hearing.
Mhm.
There is no one that they can trust because of that reason right there. you
Yeah.
know it's true. We see RFPs that are written specifically for Tyler Tech. And lo
Mhm.
and behold, guess who their consultant is? We see it all the time. That's just one example,
Yep.
but it's a choice. And we really care about our independence. And again, we recognize um, how much noise there is in the market. And we really want to help our public agencies break through that noise and help them decipher what's the best choice for them. It's not
Mhm.
always Tyler Tech. It's not always Workday.
Mhm.
It's not always Oracle or NetSuite, but it's in our best interest to keep our relationships with all of them and not show favoritism, because we can all win. We can
Yeah.
all share intel, we can all share insight. And it's important for us to really hold those relationships with those software vendors so that we know what to tell our clients, right? If you're
Mhm.
just trying to guide your client to one technology or the other, you're not working for the best interest of your client
Mhm.
at all.
Yeah, for sure. And going off that, like you said, it's a choice to be independent, and I think we will always be independent. We want to be your trusted advisor, and when you look at some of these that are in cahoots together, what's the point really in getting a third party consultant like we are if you're going to pick someone that from the bat who they're probably going to recommend from you. You're going through current state, you're going through future state, all that, but then they give you the same answer they give everyone else. We do not do that. We very much look at our client and what is best for them. And what is best for every client definitely differs across the board. It is not one system fits all for everyone.
We do not offer cookie cutter solutions.
Mhm.
And with some of our competitors, they're so big that, their clients are, one of 2,000,
Yeah.
right? And so really they have a one size fits all approach.
Mhm.
And I think this is a differentiator for us. This is what makes us stand out. This is
Yeah.
what has gotten us to this point today. We say all the time it didn't take us decades to get here, right? And what we mean by that is it didn't take us decades to understand that we don't have to follow the status quo, which is
Mhm.
being in cahoots with software vendors,
Yeah.
right? We can be friends with all of them, because it's in the best interest for us to do that, to share that knowledge and transfer that to our public agencies who are getting bombarded with emails
Yeah.
every single day. And I think being in the client's corner is where everybody needs to be, because I don't know how people sleep at night knowing that they influence a decision to go with certain technologies just for their own benefit. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I'm very passionate about that. Thank you for asking that question. Kyler says, should the process be changed to match the new tech or vice versa? Lexi, what do you think?
Yeah. This is interesting. Sorry, I'm going going to look at her comment. Should the process be changed? So I guess the typical consultant answer is it depends. Um, if you're getting new tech, you probably want to, you know, probably do a large overhaul of your processes and see how it works best within that new technology and how it's most efficient. But if you're not getting new tech and you are working with what you have, because what you have may not be bad, what you have may be totally workable and salvageable. You just need to rework your processes. So I guess it depends. But obviously different processes work better with different technology, but also you don't want to over customize the technology to
Right.
where it's so over customized it's really hard for someone off the street to come in that's new and learn how to use it because it's been over customized to death.
So let me preface my answer by saying we talked about current state, future state, and we talked about process mapping. The reason you need to understand your processes is because if you don't, then you have no requirements to put in front of a vendor. If
Yep.
you don't understand how you do business on a day-to-day basis, then you have nothing to
Hmm.
number one stand on when you
Yep.
contract with the vendor, but you have absolutely nothing to go off of when you're selecting a vendor.
Hmm.
How are you supposed to select a vendor if you don't even know what your processes are and how they need to be improved? So what I'm
Hmm.
getting at is your processes then become your requirements
Yeah.
for your RFP, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that before you even start talking about selecting a new ERP system, you've got to define that and what your requirements are going to be. Because then when your software vendors respond, right, they are going to literally sign off that their system has this functionality that you need for your
Hmm.
process, right? And when they sign off on that, that means that they are going to be able to deliver that to you.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes they lie and sign off on things that they can't do, or
Yeah.
they sign off on things that are being built in the back end. And no offense to my software vendors, please don't get mad at me. But this has happened before and we've seen it. Sometimes, things are being built and that will happen in 1 to 2 years and it doesn't. And so
Hmm.
your requirements that you put in front of your vendors then become leverage for you during the
Yeah.
contract negotiation. Now,
Yeah.
have we come into a situation where an organization wasn't necessarily ready for a new software and we had to work backwards? Yes, it is not ideal because again,
Hmm.
how do you know that this software is going to work for you and your
Yeah.
specific needs?
Yeah.
So good question, Kyler. I like that question a lot. That might be a whole nother topic
Yeah.
for another
Hmm.
live. Um, before we hop off, we've been talking for a long time. Before we hop off, I do want to discuss data because I think that is really a key step
Hmm.
in making sure that you're ready for an ERP transformation. So,
Hmm.
number one, you have to know where your data is and if it's clean. Is it
Yeah.
clean? Where is the data? What does the data look like? How much data do we have? How much should I carry into the
Hmm.
new system? You have to define that up front
Yeah.
because one of the things that the vendor is going to help you do and we will facilitate is move that data from point A to point B.
Hmm.
And you need to really define what that looks like
Yeah.
because when you purchase a software, the ERP vendor may think that you're only moving a year's worth of data. That's
Hmm.
what they think in their mind, but then you get into it and you really wanted to move 6 years worth of
Yeah.
data, and then guess what? They're going to charge you
A lot.
multiple thousands of dollars
Hmm.
to be able to do that. So those things have to be defined up
Up front.
front.
Yeah.
And your
Definitely.
data has to be very clean because if it's not, then you're going to be doing the same workarounds and not using the ERP system to its full capability. And I mean, while we're on it with AI, you know, let me say that we don't know, you know, where AI is going. I don't think anyone has figured out the best use for AI, but if you want to automate some processes, and process mining is a big topic of conversation right now. You can't do any of that with dirty data. Is what I'm calling it.
Mhm.
Dirty data, data that's not clean, data
Mhm.
um, that's not readily accessible. So,
Yeah.
Lexi, what are your thoughts on data?
Yeah, the data piece is really important. I mean, we talked about this the other day, with a potential client. A lot of your project cost and timeline is going to depend on how much data you need to move over. So that's something you need to decide. 1 year's worth of data is entirely different than 10 years worth of data. And a caveat to point out, not like if you transfer over 5 years worth of data, the
Mhm.
data past that doesn't just disappear. It's not destroyed. You can still access it through the old system. It just won't be carried over to the new system. So it's still there if you ever need it. But the data piece is really critical to know how much you want to carry over at the beginning, because that does have a huge impact on project cost and timeline. And I'm sure vendors make assumptions when they're bidding on these projects, of how much data you're going to have to carry over. And like Megan said, if it's way more than they anticipated, you're going to be charged a lot for that.
Mhm. Yep.
Yep.
Lots. We've seen it. We have seen it. So very simply put, know where it is, know what shape it's in, know
Hmm.
how much you want to carry over into the new system.
Yeah.
Data, there's a lot of proof in the numbers and the data. So Bent asks another great question. Um, he says, so can system integrators do what you do? It's funny, Ben, because we asked this question not too long ago
Quite a
in
bit. Yeah.
this interview.
Hmm.
And the short answer is I'm going to say no.
No.
Yes, to a certain extent they
Yeah.
can, but the problem with system integrators is that they're tied to a big brand,
Hmm.
right? They only implement Oracle, or they only implement Workday, or they only
Yeah.
implement the two of them. So if they're doing what we're doing, how is there any bias
Hmm.
in that ERP readiness assessment? There is none. There is none. They are getting paid by the big person who is wanting them to sell their software. So why would
Hmm.
they not point you in the direction of the
How they're
vendors
getting
that
paid.
they're going to
Yeah.
pay? There is
Yeah.
no independence. So
Yeah.
yes, they will tell you that they can do it, and I'm sure they can, but it's not unbiased.
Yeah.
They're very biased. Lexi,
Definitely.
what are your
Yeah. I mean, like you said, they literally, they are, sponsored by this company, the software provider. And it just doesn't make sense. We've heard before, oh, well, our current vendor will do an assessment and then give us recommendations. Well, obviously, if your current vendor does the assessment, they're just going to recommend new updated modules of theirs, or they're not going to recommend a
burns
different
me
system.
up. It
Yeah. So I
burns.
mean, they're not thinking of what is best for you. They're just going to keep you on that system that they
Mhm.
integrate. Like that's just, there's no way that they can be unbiased in that.
No, absolutely not. So beware. They're going to put you in a box, and it's the
Hmm.
box that they live in every single day.
Yeah.
Am I mad right now? I think I'm mad. I'm very mad. So
Hmm.
Kyler says, I can only imagine the compliance requirements needed for data management in a public sector transformation. Yeah, that's very,
Yeah.
very true.
A lot.
The safety of your data is another big topic of conversation as
For
well,
sure.
especially if you are moving to the cloud
Hmm.
and using any sort of AI.
Yeah.
Your data, if you're not careful, will be shared to increase the efficiency of the AI bot.
Yeah.
So data compliance is huge, and you can find more information on that in our 2025 report, and also on our YouTube channel. We do dive into that into more detail. Um, SIs are technical implementers. They turn it on and peace out. Also, they can be sneaky in owning your integrations. That is very true, Kyler. Thank you for sharing that. Well, guys, I'm sorry I was so tongue tied today. Hopefully, you got one message from me. I've been talking way too much the past 2 weeks. It's been a lot of fun. But as you can tell, I'm losing my voice a little bit. So I feel like my mouth is just sticking together. So too much information, but sorry I was so tongue tied. We do go live every Wednesday. I know it's Tuesday. I know last week we went live on a Thursday. We've been busy around here.
It
Okay.
varies, but
It varies. It
yeah.
varies. Typically, we like to stay on a Wednesday schedule at 10 a.m. Next week,
Yeah.
we are closed for the holiday. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and I hope you're all able to take a chance to reset. You know,
Yeah.
2025 is going to be exciting, and we're all just so blessed to be here. And I'm grateful that I'm getting to go home and spend time with family. So I hope you all get a chance to recharge. Lexi, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm
Yeah,
always
happy
so
to be
proud
here.
of you. Guys, show Lexi some love. She's done a great job for 2025. She's been a huge help to me in business development, and she's grown so much in the past year. And I'm just super proud of all the work that you're doing. And
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you're on my team. So thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to those who chimed in today. If you're watching, please again download our 2025 report and check us out on YouTube and every social media platform. Also, we have shared the ERP readiness checklist. So
Yeah.
that is an asset that you can download from our website. And also, we shared it in the comments box. So thank you guys so much, and happy holidays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bye.
Happy holidays.